We're coming to the close. As everyone knows, was just introduced. I'm Dennis Shea, Executive Vice President at the Bipartisan Policy Center, and I am privileged to lead BPC's Terwilliger Center for Housing Policy. We all know that the U.S. has not built housing, enough homes to meet demand, driving up costs and limiting options for renters and homeowners alike. At BPC, we're focused not just on the problems, but also the solutions. To explore what it will take to increase housing supply and expand access to home ownership, it is my distinct honor to welcome our keynote speaker, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner. Prior to his confirmation, Secretary Turner was a developer and builder of attainable multifamily housing. In the first Trump administration, he served as executive director of the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council. During his tenure, Secretary Turner led the Interagency Opportunity Zones Initiative, working with state, local, tribal, and territorial governments across the country to revitalize economically distressed areas, promote affordable housing, and create businesses. Previously, he also represented the 33rd District in the Texas State Legislature, so Secretary Turner is a Texan. Prior to his career in public service, Secretary Turner played 9 seasons in the NFL, 9 productive seasons in the NFL, including here in Washington. Today, Secretary Turner will share how HUD is working to meet the moment and what more can be done to unlock the American dream of home ownership. And then after his remarks, he and I will dive into a conversation on practical solutions to the affordable housing crisis. So please join me in giving a big welcome to Secretary Turner. Thank you so much.
Well, hello. Come on, y'all. I know it's been a long day, but we can do better. Hello. Excellent. How's everybody doing? Y'all doing well? Would you rather be anywhere else but here? Well, I'm happy to be here. And Dennis, thank you, sir, for that kind introduction. And yes, I did play for my beloved Washington Redskins. Y'all don't be afraid to say it. You know they're coming back. They're building the stadium. Did y'all hear that? Where RFK is. I played in RFK, and I played in the new stadium. Ask me which one I like best. Has 3 letters. Maybe we can get the name back, but we'll see. But anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you all. Thank you for being so receptive, and thank you. I know it's been a long day for you. I promise this will be productive. And just know that my team and I, we want to be here. We care about the people that we serve. We care about the mission, and we care about our country. And so I'm happy to be here in your presence, this distinguished group of men and women. So thank you. And it's important at this event that we talk about solutions to our affordable housing shortage. How many know that we have an affordable housing issue in our country? Let me see you if you're in agreement. Okay, good. We have an affordable housing shortage. And it's a perfect time for us to have this discussion together. I was with a group earlier today, and we had a wonderful discussion together about this same issue. And so it's good to see so many team players come together to discuss these issues. And, you know, it's National Home Ownership Month. Did y'all know that? June is National Home Ownership Month, and at HUD, we emphasize the importance of home ownership and what we're doing to promote this across our country, because we want every American to achieve the American dream of home ownership. And so this month, we recognize that more than 80% of American adults, 80% of American adults believe that home ownership is part of the American dream and that they want to own a home someday, and I believe that's right. A home is much more than a financial investment. Home ownership is about providing a sanctuary for your family, a place of joy, of love, of family formation, and creating a legacy that you can pass on to your children and your grandchildren. How many know that a home is more than just four walls? How many remember your childhood home and what happened in that home, both good and bad, right? But a home is just more than brick and mortar. But sadly, many Americans today feel a long way away. And they feel that the American dream of home ownership is beyond their reach. We need about 7 million units of housing in our country today. Housing prices are going up and sales are going down. And I know that with the experts here in this distinguished group, you understand that we need millions of units. You understand that housing prices have gone up and sales are going down. The median home price as of this past April was $414,000 in America. $414,000. That's a 21% increase from April of 2021. And home sales last year were at the all-time low level in the last 3 decades. This is not sustainable for our country. These are not just numbers on a page. All of these numbers represent American people who are not living the American dream currently, who are seeing this dream pass further and further out of their reach. And so you and I, we have to do something about this for our beloved country and the beloved people of this country. Winston Churchill once said this: out of intense complexities, intense simplicity. Y'all, hold on right quick. And I'll tell y'all while I'm laughing. I'm a pastor. And every time I preach out of the book of Deuteronomy, I always start laughing. And I see this word. This is a tongue twister for me. Out of intense complexities, intense simplicities emerge. That's a quote from Winston Churchill. So what's our intense simplicity? It simply says this: in order to solve our housing shortage and high prices, we must build more housing stock. That's the simple answer. But how do we do that? We identify the problem, but we don't stop there. What do we do about it? What's the simple answer? We have to use new, innovative, creative solutions that encourage more home construction, innovativeness, creativity to encourage more home construction. I think about opportunity zones being one of those innovative, creative solutions. Opportunity zones are an amazing way to revitalize our forgotten and distressed communities. Communities that many people have written off, but they still possess great potential. Many times communities in America have been written off, but in those communities, and I've been to almost 80 of these cities when I led the Opportunity Zone Initiative, 250 convenings with 15 domestic policy agencies. These cities are real people. There's real potential inside of these cities. There's real promise inside of the people, inside of the forgotten and distressed communities across America. 8,764 communities across this great nation, tribal, rural, and urban. Broad bipartisan support in opportunity zones nationally and locally. Almost $90 billion of private investment that have gone into opportunity zones to support new infrastructure, jobs, training, and family formation. Opportunity zones have helped create over 300,000 new residential addresses, meaning that they approximately doubled the number of homes in communities where they are in effect. Over 300,000. That's astounding. A full fifth of the market rate apartment units that are being developed across the United States of America. And you know, people can argue about it, and we can say, well, I don't agree, but the fact of the matter is there are results. The proof is in the pudding. People's lives have changed. 1 million people lifted out of poverty, off the poverty rolls. And I've been to many of these places. I've put my feet on the ground in many of these areas called opportunity zones. And so I'm excited to see the expansion and the continuation of the opportunity zones under President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. We have to get the bill passed in order for opportunity zones to continue. It's important legislation to stay intact, to continue them, that they don't expire. We don't want the status quo in this country anymore. And y'all, when I think about status quo, J.C. Watts, who's a dear friend of mine, and I told a group earlier this, he told me back in 2004, don't ever be afraid of the status quo. And y'all, if I agreed with the status quo, or if I just complied with the status quo, or if I just accepted status quo, I wouldn't be standing before you today, and that's a true fact. If I just said business as usual is okay, I wouldn't be standing before you today. I grew up in domestic violence. I grew up in a broken home. My family unit was fractured. My parents were divorced when I was 10. Status quo said, well, you're just going to be another number. Business as usual said, well, this kid out of Richardson, Texas is just not going to make it. So how many know that I don't comply with status quo? That business as usual is not who I am. Mediocrity is not something that I strive for, but excellence. And I believe that's the mindset that we have to have in our country today as it pertains to what we're going to do about housing and coming together as a group of people, regardless of your politics. And quite frankly, I really don't care about your politics. I care about people. What's the best solution for the people? What's the best idea for the people? What's the best way to execute for the people? And I say that out of a heart of humility, but out of a heart of caring for the American people. Let's not get bogged down by status quo. And opportunity zones, I believe, help us to overcome that and, as a result, build more affordable housing in our country. I've already been to over 13 opportunity zone sites since being confirmed in February, and so I'm looking forward to this innovative solution. But there's more tools in the tool belt. How about manufacturing homes? Come on. It's a great example of what I mean when I talk about innovative solutions, manufactured homes. And I said earlier how high home prices have become in our country. But when it comes to manufactured homes, the average price is slightly over $124,000, making them significantly more cost-effective than most traditional units and replacing them squarely within the reach of many more American families. Manufactured homes aren't built on site like traditional houses. Instead, they're pre-made in factories, and this process means that home builders can create them more quickly, more cheaply, more cost-effectively, and without exposing construction to the elements. And so there's great elements, there's great things about manufactured homes that can literally lift American families as it pertains to affordable housing in our country. HUD has a crucial part to play in this process. The HUD code ensures that manufactured homes are built to high standards of safety and quality. This helps guarantee that the industry is both about quality and quantity, not just numbers, but the quality of the homes that are built. Some government regulations are quickly outpaced by events, and so the conditions currently on the ground render them obsolete. But that's not what's going on with the HUD code, which we regularly update to make sure it keeps pace with the latest conditions in our industry. We don't want to be a burden to home builders with antiquated regulations that bear no relation to reality. And I'm going to say that again. We don't want to be extra burdensome. We don't want to have burdensome regulations on the home building industry that have nothing to do or not related to the reality of the situation that we're in. We want to be less burdensome. We want to be less heavy-handed in order to unleash innovativeness, unleash creativity, unleash the ingenuity of the private sector as it pertains to those 7 million units of housing that we need in our country. Single family, multifamily, manufacturing, condo, duplex, you name it, rural, tribal, and urban. And that's what we're talking about. And speaking of regulations, that brings me to another major initiative that we're pursuing at HUD. We're taking inventory of every program at HUD. We're taking inventory of our processes at HUD and cutting down on these burdensome regulations. And so my team and I, as a result, we eliminated the AFFH rule, the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing rule. It was a regulation that had a nice sounding name to it, but the results were not good. The results were terrible. They were burdensome. They crippled home building in our country. It usurped local zoning decisions away from the localities and gave them to Washington, D.C. It tried to remake our suburbs. It misguided the campaign. It was social engineering. Why am I saying all this? Because ending this rule returned zoning power. It returned flexibility. It returned the uniqueness back to the localities. Washington doesn't know Collin County, Texas, like Collin County, Texas knows it. Washington doesn't know Dubuque, Iowa, or Chicago, Illinois, or Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, or Coos Bay, Oregon, some of the places that I've been through the years. We want to return flexibility back to the localities because they understand their unique needs. And so I've received many letters and notes from people saying, thank you of entrusting the localities. We understand what we need to return zoning back to us. And so that was a big step in taking this rule down and not being heavy-handed in Washington. We also have taken big steps to streamline the bureaucracy by retiring nearly 600. And I want y'all to listen to this. We retired 600 mortgagee letters, which are documents that give important HUD guidance to lenders, as you know. 600. These letters were not only obsolete, but some of them dated back to 1978. Guidance from I was born in 1972. This was almost 50 years old. And it's not serving the people that we need to serve. Our operations have to be better. And so we took those down. And we've achieved a lot of these victories at HUD and others as well. Since President Trump came into office, the FHA has been a critical part, has always been a critical part of HUD, but since returning, we've backed over 236,000 home buyers through FHA, including 140,000 Americans who purchased for the first time. This is just since January. And this is very encouraging. 236,000 home buyers and 140,000 of them are first-time homeowners. This year alone, Ginnie Mae has helped support the mortgage of more than 500,000 veterans, with almost a quarter of those loans belonging to first-time home buyers. Y'all, I'm giving you these stats because this is good news. This is something that we can hang our hat on and say, well, we have a good start, but we have a lot of work to do. 500,000 veterans, with a quarter of those being first home buyers to our Ginnie Mae program. We're also expanding our international cooperation. I don't know if you all saw this earlier this month, but HUD, Ginnie Mae, and the Korean Housing Finance Corporation, we signed the MOU of understanding, an MOU to promote cooperation between our agencies, to encourage mutual investment, to deepen our commitment to finding affordable housing solutions. And so we signed this MOU and looking forward to the collaboration and the ideation between our two nations on ideas about affordable housing to make it more, not just affordable, but housing more abundant. And so, y'all, these are just some of the ways that we're pursuing to expand housing supply at HUD and to remove the burdens from the backs of American people and home buyers. We still have a long road ahead, and I know this, but we know what we need to do. We're going to keep pushing and keep pursuing the solutions to promote the American dream of home ownership. And I want to say this at the outset or at the end of my remarks is it's very important that you understand that we have an open door to hear and to listen. We may not always agree on what we're talking about, but I want to hear the ideas. I want to hear some of the solutions that you have seen, some of the ways you think we can make it better. Because at the end of the day, it's about the American people achieving the dream of home ownership. Earlier, I told a story about Mike Shanahan, who was my coach at the Denver Broncos. And oftentimes, players would not be satisfied with their contract. And Mike Shanahan, who was also the general manager during this time, he said, you always have an open door to come talk to me. And he said, Scotty, you may not like the answer I give you. You may not be in agreement with what I tell you, but I'm always open to listening to you. And that made me respect Mike Shanahan a lot. He was my favorite coach. And oftentimes in that conversation, I learned from him, he learned from me. And I'll tell you all that, obviously, I'm not Mike Shanahan, but I think the principle remains the same, is that we have to keep the doors of communication open. And as the leader and the steward of HUD, my door is open and my ears are attentive to what you have to say. So God bless y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a chat.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Secretary Turner, for that very enlightening set of comments. We really appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I know you're very, very busy. You have rightly pointed out that housing isn't a political issue. It's a personal one that affects every American, and we wholeheartedly agree with that perspective at BPC's Terwilliger Center. And you talked about the shortage of affordable homes. I think you mentioned 7 million. We're short about 7 million. Why is the shortage of affordable housing such a critical challenge for our country right now?
Well, I think, we alluded to it earlier when we talked about just the cost of regulations. When you build a multifamily project, about 40% of the cost is in regulation. And when you build a single family project, about 20 to 25% of the cost is in regulation. And as you know, that's not sustainable. And it cripples the building industry. And so when you look at the regulations from the federal standpoint, but even more importantly from the local standpoint, and take an inventory of these, and this is what I've been encouraging localities and mayors and people inside of cities in our country, is to take inventory of your regulatory environment and see how you can ease that regulatory environment, working with local developers and builders so that you can unleash their creativity and their ability to actually build to help us solve the affordable housing initiative or crisis that we have in our country. And so from our standpoint, we're doing what we do, but also from a local standpoint, it's very important that they do the same.
So consistent with your open door policy, if people have suggestions for deregulation, ways to remove policies that might impact housing affordability, you're open to listening to that.
Of course.
Thank you. Probably no one knows more about opportunity zones in the United States than you, as the former executive director of the office. And we saw the House and Senate advance legislation that strengthened opportunity zones. So how, in your view, what's the most effective way to unlock their potential to boost housing production?
And that's a great question. And, there's a lot of smart people in our country as it pertains to opportunity zone. I bet some of them are here. And I've learned from so many people through the years about OZs. But one thing, as I said before, passing the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Opportunity Zone initiative is in that bill. And so to extend opportunity zones, obviously we have to pass the bill, extend the tax cuts. And then, as the House had one version and the Senate now has put out their language and the version as it pertains to opportunity zones. And, to make a more of an emphasis on the rural communities in our country, the reporting aspect of it in our country to make sure that we're having proper and appropriate reporting for the transparency piece and understand what the data is telling us. And also to make it permanent. I think if we do that, this will unleash it, and give great momentum for people that want to get involved in opportunity zones.
That certainty is very important for
Yes,
the
sir.
investment, yeah. Another point you mentioned, you gave a shout out to manufactured housing and its importance as a critical piece of the affordability puzzle. Manufactured housing, modular housing at the BPC Terwilliger Center, we feel very strongly that those are important pieces of trying to solve our country's affordability crisis. But what's standing in the way of wider adoption and construction, and how do you, as the leader of HUD, plan to overcome those obstacles?
Well, thank you. And yes, manufactured housing plays a big role, as I said before, in increasing the housing supply. And we're all very familiar with the permanent chassis requirement, which Congress has to work on, to change that. But our job at HUD is to make sure that the code is up to date and to make sure that we are keeping up with the industry and the trends in the industry and to make sure that the quality and the safety is there. And so we're well aware. We have a great housing team at HUD, as you know, and we're in great communication, constant communication with the manufactured housing industry. I myself have visited manufactured homes and conferences and walked in them, and so I understand the importance of it. But obviously, the permanent chassis has to be changed, and also keeping up with the code, I think, is very important.
Right, great. Well, I know you have to go to another commitment, but as we wrap up, what are one or two key takeaways that you want to leave our audience with, especially as we think about increasing housing supply and improving housing affordability? What are the one or two things that people should take away from listening to you and your interaction with us today?
Thank you. You know, I would hope that everyone would hear and understand not only what my vision is, but what my heart is for HUD and the mission that we have been called to at HUD. You know, HUD currently, even with a tremendous budget, is not serving the people that we need to serve. We're really only serving 1 out of 4 eligible families at HUD. I'll give you an example. 50% of households in America that receive HUD funding have not one person in the household that's working. And so we have to visit these things and rethink how we're doing funding from HUD. And my heart is that people would not remain on government subsidies at HUD, but that people would be able to get off of government subsidies to live a life of self-sustainability and self-sufficiency. And so you'll hear us talking about work requirements, and you'll hear us talking about time limits and these things. Work requirements, to me, work helps restore dignity in people. It helps to restore the pride of work, and it helps to incentivize not just our generation, but generations coming behind us, that work is a good thing. If you're an able-bodied, able-minded individual, not talking about the elderly or disabled, but those that are able-bodied and able-minded, if you're able to work, you should work. Not just from, this has nothing to do from a political point. This has everything to do from a person, from a family, from dignity, from achieving the American dream, from getting on a life of self-sustainability. And so that's what my heart is when you think about HUD. We have over 9 million people living in government subsidies or government subsidized housing in America, 9 million. And that's too many. We want to get people out of public housing. We want to get people to live life of self-sustainability and self-sufficiency. And so whatever we can do together to help people along the way to achieve that, that's what I want to do. And I read this scripture, and it's in Proverbs chapter 14:23. And it says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk only poverty. Well, why do I say that? Because I want to ensure everybody here that we're working hard at HUD, myself and our team, to ensure that more people in this country have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. And so we're just not talking about it. We have the hard conversations. We have the healthy conversations. We're willing to make the hard decisions for the posterity of our nation and for the people of this country. And y'all, that means a lot to me. When I go to work at HUD every day, I don't just go to work and say, okay, you know, I'm the secretary. I could care less about that. I go to work and say, man, I have a job. I have an assignment to make it better than it was when I founded our country, to help people. Even if I can help one, that one will impact 10, and 10 will impact 100. And so I think my challenge, not only for the people in this room, but everybody that's listening, you know, who are you impacting for the betterment of their life? Who are you taking alongside of you and under you to help them to be great? You don't have to be the secretary to do that. You could do it right where you are. And so I would take inventory. I take inventory of my life. Who am I helping? Who am I serving? Whose life am I helping to become better? Am I laying my life down for my brothers and my sisters? Am I laying my life down for those, whether you agree with me, whether your politics are the same or not? How can I help you to be great and fulfill your God-given potential? And I think more Americans need to ask ourselves that question. And as a HUD secretary, I do that every day. And I say that with great humility. It's a big job. And we have some former HUD secretaries that are here. And I'm so grateful to meet them and see them. And so they understand the responsibility. But with that responsibility comes, you have to have great vision and a heart for the people.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We at the BPC Terwilliger Center also are very mission-oriented. You know, we believe in an America where every family has access to a safe, stable, and affordable home. So we share that vision. I know you share that vision. I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Can everyone please give a big round of applause to Secretary Turner? Thank you.